As a person who has studied African American history, both on a personal level because of the stories that have been handed down to me by my parents and my grandparents, who was handed to them by their great-grandparents, and as a person who has read and who has visited the monuments and the museums and heard the oral traditions and the stories, who has looked at the accounts of white enslavers. Everything that the common person knows about slavery is a sanitization of how bad slavery in America actually was. To be clear, American chattel slavery is the single most barbaric experience that any group of people have been put through in our recorded history as humans. And it is an extension of the reality that Europeans raped and pillaged their way through the New World in order to conquer it. They are the villains of every indigenous people's story because no one has ever brought more violence or crime or disease than Europeans trying to manifest destiny their way through the world. Which is why this post from the president is particularly insidious, because the whole idea of museums talking about how horrible the country is or how bad slavery was, as if it wasn't, as if we're lying. But that is the white supremacist talking point, that we've been lying, that white folks were actually nice enslavers, and that those who were enslaved actually enjoyed it. He wants to replace that with being the hottest country in the world, or he wants to replace it with lying about who America has been and the byproduct to this day. Because to be clear, slavery is the single most impactful thing that most Americans are experiencing to this day. Trump's lawyers can go to these museums and sanitize all they want. We know the truth, and those of us who know the truth will continue to tell the truth, no matter how much they white lie.
Welcome on another episode, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're joining for the very first time, thank you as well for clicking on this video. Now, Trump is making another headline. In fact, several headlines in the past few days now. And this time around, he is talking about unwoken museum. He said the museum is too woke because they display the bad side of slavery. I'm sure this is not the very first time we're hearing something like this. Was a time that they said that slaves benefit more from slavery. You guys remember that time, right? Trump said museums across America are too woke. And now he is calling for a full review of what museums around America are allowed to display. Isn't that sounding somehow? Because according to him, he said history is too focused on how bad slavery was and not enough of the greatness of America, the greatness of the country. So to him, they focus more on the bad things that happened during slavery. I, for once, have not read a book or watched a documentary about slavery that is just blues and, beautiful and all of that. It was never like that. So I do not think these people are displaying how bad slavery was. Slavery was just bad. And at this point, what the actual hell is going on? Let's get into what the people are saying more on this, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Trump is actively trying to purge museums of Black history and whitewash America's history by calling our museums too woke.
Well, we want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way.
Black American history is barely taught in America as it stands now. There's no universal curriculum in this country to explain the history of what it means to be Black in America and our Black experience. We learn our history from our parents, our grandparents, our elders, and our community, and that's how we've always learned our history. An abridged version of what most people in this country learn is that slavery was bad. Slaves were brought from Africa. They worked on plantations, mainly cotton and tobacco. Lincoln ended slavery, then cut to Martin Luther King and civil rights, and then we've been free. But that is not how history works, right? Our history is omitted from curriculum and omitted from the mainstream society because that would have to mean that America would admit its portion in systematically oppressing us today. Slavery lasted for 246 years, from 1619 until 1865. And then for 89 years after 1865, we lived under one of the worst apartheid systems in the modern world, where Jim Crow run rampant. In 1954, we got the civil rights era starting, and when we had our leaders fight for our rights to vote, fight for our rights to have fair and free housing. But we were still, the systems in place were already unilaterally spread throughout this country, meaning Black people couldn't do many things. And we had to fight for the next 30 to 40, 50 years, even today, to get access to certain things. But because this isn't taught, and the history and the gruesomeness of that slavery, where we have men raping women at their beck and call, and then stealing those babies from those mothers and then raping them again and getting them pregnant. Black people were sent to breeding farms, mainly in Virginia, to breed with each other because the strongest slave would breed another strong slave, whether they were family or not. That's where the term motherfucker comes from. The more you know. Lynching people, how people bringing their babies to come watch lynchings, antagonizing Black people, terrorizing Black people, eating Black people. There's so many things that happen in America with white people against Black people. And the fact that they're trying to spin this new era of, well, not everybody owned a slave, white people aren't evil, it's always white people bad, Black people good. And that's not the case. The case is, if we don't teach our history the correct way, why would anyone listen to my experience as a Black person? And it's already being challenged. You know, it's every time I put up a video about the Black experience or Black history, people can throw out racist comments very quickly to me. And I'm like, why do you think it's so easy for you to be racist when my experience is exhausting? It is exhausting being Black and have to stand 10 toes down for my history and my culture. Because if it's not us to teach it, they'll wipe it from the history books here. And that's what they're trying to do.
I have a question. When did we arrive to the point where the discussion and displaying of the history of slavery became woke? Slavery is the original sin of the United States of America. And no matter what Donald Trump attempts to do to erase that history, it is a stain that will forever be on the garment of this nation. This country was built, founded on the backs of African Americans, of slaves that were forcefully brought here against their will, families ripped apart. And the sitting president of the United States says that the African American Museum here in DC, its depiction of the African American experience is unfair. To who? That would be my question. Who is it unfair to? Your ancestors who inflicted this pain on mine? I'm so sick and tired of this.
Yeah, I just think this CBS commercial that Donald Trump replaced with the PBS commercial, or the show that Donald Trump replaced our OG shows with, and it is talking about how slavery wasn't a big thing and slavery was everywhere, and isn't it better to be a slave than to be killed? A lot of people kill themselves to not be a slave. I don't know what the fuck, like, y'all, they're trying to erase history in our face. But if you are a history person, please get on here talking about the history of slavery right now. Because I definitely remember slaves were jumping off ships on the way to the America because they did not want to be a fucking slave. They were killing themselves, okay? That's why the Bermuda Triangle is the way that it is. It got spirits in that water. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? I don't understand this. I don't understand racist people. I do not understand bigot people. I do not understand people who spew hate to other races. Because me personally, I don't care. I don't spew hate to no race. But the fact that there is a bunch of white Mexican people and Hispanic people who sit up here and talk and trash Black people to the point where they voted for Trump and their own family members are being deported. Like, racism is so deep, and the fact that this is out about slavery is so scary, because a lot of kids will watch this and believe that that is true about slavery. It's not. People killed themselves to not be slaves. People rather die than be slaves.
I don't pay attention to things I don't like.
Why is Donald Trump being so pressed to remove woke artifacts from these museums? What you're witnessing is a man moving out of fear.
Why do white people pay so much attention to black people?
Those woke artifacts, they point directly to who the real Israelites are of today. And they're going to do everything they can do to try to hide that.
A liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity.
They fear the Black Messiah. They fear us knowing who we are, waking up and getting our position back. It's the same way they did when they tried to kill Christ as a baby. Like, same thing. History repeats itself over and over again. They can hide artifacts, erase stories, even try to rewrite the past. But they can't stop what God set in motion. What God said will be is going to always be. So when Donald Trump says he's fighting against woke history, no. He's really fighting against Bible prophecy. And please believe them arms is too short to box with God.
I love one of the questions that, one of the stage said, asking, how did we arrive at a conclusion that, museums are too woke? Are they putting anything there that didn't happen back in those days? Or because they are close to highlighting how bad it was? Because I still do not think that there is a full representation of how bad slavery was, because now it's not even about museums anymore. It's more of who gets to tell the American story, the slave story, how it all happened from Africa down there, how everything went down, and even how when it was over, the type of laws and, governments that they were under. They want to be the one to say it. Like you slapping someone and still be the one to tell others how painful the slap is for the person. How can you tell when you're not at the receiving end? So Trump calling museums too woke is basically him just saying these exhibits are making white folks feel uncomfortable. It is making them feel bad. It is making them look bad. It is making them feel bad. I feel like this is what he's trying to pass around. Because according to what we've seen, conversations had, documentary, books that we've read, so many of the things that we even see today representing slavery has not even scratched the surface of the true full history of slavery, colonization, Jim Crow, indigenous genocide, and as well the ongoing injustice. And yet, even a little bit of truth, just a tiny bit, the one that has been, sanitized, just a tiny bit that has been, talked about, is still deemed too much work, according to the Orange Man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think history is being told or narrated truthfully, even though they are saying it's still woke? Do you think it is still truthfully represented in this day and age? Like, I really want to hear what you guys think. Or do you see it as another attempt to silence uncomfortable truth? These people don't like to take accountability. They don't like to be told that what they did is bad. They are so uncomfortable at the fact that Black people are gaining voices, standing on grounds, and letting the world know the atrocities that they committed and the pain that they had to go through in the hands of those people. Basically, the white man wants a whitewash history, wants to repaint the country as flawless, a free living and loving country, freedom loving country from the start. And we all know that that is not what it is. And this is not just even being dishonest. This as well is very dangerous. This is the reason why I follow so many creators who talk about history, African history, Black American history. Follow creators who look like you that talk about these things because those are the people that we should be learning from. I believe a lot of us already know that this is not about patriotism. It is giving control. Controlling how students learn about slavery, controlling how Black and brown people are as well being represented, and as well controlling how America is remembered. It's about, rewriting a version of history that skips the pain and the blood of the people that built that country. And let's not forget that this same person said slavery wasn't that bad. Black people even benefit from slavery. Remember, this was a conversation we had on this channel last year that, they made it seem like slave didn't benefit. They benefit so much from slavery. Like, what? So basically, this man is saying, we don't want healing. We don't want to even pay, reparations. We don't want to even take accountability for anything. Let's just erase it. Let's just, rewrite this story, because at this point, where he's standing right now is not putting us in a very good place. It's making us uncomfortable. It is too woke. And, one of the museums that I had mentioned in DC is one of, the museums that I've seen a lot of Black people talk about, saying, oh, if you have the opportunity to visit museum and you want to see some things or learn some things about slavery, this museum is where you should go to. That is where he wants to start from. Let me hear what you guys think about this whole thing in the comment section. I am going to see you guys in the next one.